acting all high and mighty just because you're paying off a mortgage. If I really tried, I could easily pay it off by myself. I don't consider remote work to be a real job. No matter how much money you make, you're basically unemployed, so don't talk back. Before marriage, my husband was kind. But at some point, he became a lazy, worthless man. He didn't work or do any housework, but he leeched. Today was no different. He showed no signs of initiative, instead he just chilled. Okay. I'm sorry for stopping you. Take care. David grumbled and went out to hang out again today. Watching him leave, I let out a suppressed laugh and brought my phone to my ear. Hello? Yes, you can go ahead and do it. I am Alyssa. My father, while he was alive, left all household responsibilities to my mother and never did anything himself. One might say he was devoted to his work. But this caused my mother to cry many times, which I knew all too well. Even as a child, I always thought I wanted to marry someone who would help more around the house. As an adult, I supported myself with remote work, but as I worked from home a lot, my opportunities to meet people were severely limited. Thus, a concerned friend introduced me to a man. His name was David. He seemed to be a colleague of my friend's husband. We started going out for meals, and we easily became close and I had a favorable impression of him. He said he liked me, but there was something that worried me a bit. He had a tendency to spend frivolously. Even when we went on dates, he always prepared expensive gifts. At first, I was happy, but as it continued, I started to feel guilty. Don't worry. I work for a major company. Confidently, we began to talk about marriage. I couldn't marry someone like my father. I wanted to live a life where household chores were shared, regardless of income. And he nodded in agreement with a smile. After we got married, David kept his promise to share the household duties. As adults, we had some savings, so we managed to buy a unit at a luxurious condo and took out a mortgage for a much more comfortable life. As our environment changed, my remote work flourished, and David and I led a happy married life. However, for some reason, David was at home a lot. He clearly had fewer workdays than a typical employee, and when I tried to talk about work, he would dodge the subject by focusing on housework or changing the topic. As the suspicion grew, I confronted him one evening over dinner. David, are you really working? I am, but... David looked away, then sighed deeply as if he gave up. I was actually a contract worker. I embellished the story a bit because I wanted you to think better of me. I'm sorry. Moreover, that contract had been terminated just after we got married. And he had been pretending to go to work while actually killing time outside. Thinking back, my friend said he was a colleague, but not that he was a full-time employee. It didn't seem like David had any intent to deceive, and honestly, it didn't bother me that much. I didn't like that you kept this a secret, but I didn't choose you for your job. I married you because you promised not to neglect household responsibilities and were cooperative. We can find another job. We're making enough with my work to cover our living expenses. Touched by my words, David teared up slightly and nodded his thanks. Then, he said he would take the lead in household chores until he found another job. I appreciated his offer. I could focus on my work, and I trusted David with the chores. I even started to think it wouldn't be so bad if he stayed a house husband. However, his dedication only lasted a few months. Gradually, David's housework became sloppy. He would let the dishes pile up, and the laundry became wrinkled. The frequency of house cleaning dropped, and dust began to gather on the shelves. Were the tears he showed me that day fake? Finally, David stopped doing the chores, and the sink was nearly overflowing with dirty dishes. When I pointed this out, he openly became sullen. I know. Stop ordering me around, it kills my motivation. If you leave it to me, I should be able to do it on my own time. It's always so bothersome. Saying that, he clicked his tongue and silently started doing the chores. Which didn't make me feel any better. As I gradually began to help with the chores, he completely relied on me and eventually did just a little more than take out the trash, but nothing else. Moreover, as his time spent on chores decreased, his time spent hanging out outside increased. We have an allowance system at home, but by the beginning of the month, he's already spent all his money and comes begging to me for more. He wouldn't tell me what he spent it on, but it seems he was pouring money into gambling. When he loses at gambling, he comes home moody and drinks the beer from the fridge. When he wins, he drinks outside and comes home in a taxi. He's become a typical leech, a no-good husband. You know, you're not doing the chores anymore and you're always out hanging out. Are you really looking for a job? You don't get it, Alyssa. Men need to have fun. Socializing brings in work and is nourishment for creativity. You wouldn't understand since you're always holed up at home on your computer. I'm actually worried about you. Why don't you get some outdoor light once in a while? He ignored my advice and just turned to me with a drunken face. Unable to hold back, I scolded David. You're the one who doesn't understand. You don't need a nourishment for creativity when you're not even working. What you need is a job, any job that you can put effort into. It was great when you used to support me with chores and other things at first. But now you're just a burden. The mortgage here isn't cheap, you know? As I said this, David's face turned red with anger as he gulped down his beer. What job? I am trying hard too. What's wrong with having a bit of fun to take a break? Here at home, there's also a woman who pretends to be working just by fiddling with her computer, giving me no peace. And what about the mortgage? Is it such a big deal? Anyone can get a mortgage on a condominium. If I were serious, I could pay it off in one lump sum. David roughly threw the empty beer can into the sink and disappeared into the bedroom, cutting off our conversation. I'm tired because of you. I thought I'd start trying hard from tomorrow, but maybe next time. When is that next time? In a few days? Or in a few years? David became more prone to snapping at me. No matter how much I tried talking with him, he only argued back. So gradually, I stopped saying anything at all. Living alone would be somewhat easier. And before I knew it, I felt more relaxed when David was out hanging out. I used to want him to come home instead of being outside. It feels like I am compensating and forcing myself to be patient. Should I break it off? Such thoughts began to circle in my head, stopping my work more often. Then one day, David came home drunk in a taxi again. When I went to meet him at the entrance, he was smiling cheerily. You look happy. Did you make money at casino?
Yeah.
I must be a genius. I made $1,000 in one day. See, I can do it when I try. Despite his good mood from winning at gambling, I wondered how much he had spent to earn that $1,000. If he were truly a genius, he would lament such earnings as a loss. Though I didn't say it out loud, such petty cash couldn't even cover the mortgage. Unaware of such things, he happily collapsed onto the bed. I quickly changed David's clothes and threw them into the laundry basket. Then, something fell out of the pocket of the clothes he had been wearing. It was a ring and a pair of earrings. The earrings were unfamiliar, but the ring was one I had seen many times before. It was our wedding ring. I sniffed the clothes again and smelled a woman's perfume. Honestly, I suspected that he might be seeing another woman since. He started going out more often at night. Despite how much he changed since the day we married. A part of me that still believed in David had been denying those thoughts. But today, David deliberately took off his wedding ring to meet a woman. If this is not betrayal, what is? With a heavy heart, I decided to hire a detective agency to investigate David. Then, the evidence of his infidelity quickly surfaced. Moreover, the other woman was a wealthy housewife living in the same condominium. It seems that both of them lacked common sense. Both leeches probably found a lot to talk about. Or perhaps, like when he first met me, David was embellishing himself with lies. Either way, I can no longer trust David. That was the moment I decided to divorce him. While I was quietly preparing for the divorce, David suddenly spoke to me. I'm going out with friends for an overnight trip tomorrow. I'll buy you a souvenir, so give me some money.
Ah.
He's going with his mistress. I understood instantly. Normally, this would start a fight. But I smiled and took out several hundreds of dollars from my wallet and handed it to David. If you're going with friends, I'll give you a bit extra so you can enjoy yourself without worries. I'm looking forward to hearing all about it. David seemed surprised by my demeanor, but frowned unhappily as he took the money. You know, I've always thought this, but you're condescending. The way you spoke just now sounded like you're pitying me because I don't have money. That wasn't my intention. Surely, this is what David has always thought of himself. You're a woman who can't support a man. I understand this well because I've been networking outside. You shouldn't get too proud just because you earn a little money. Got it? Saying that, he started counting the money I gave him. Then, stating it was a bit short, he took an additional $300 and finally went back to his room. Right to the end, he was a despicable man. Unaware of my inner thoughts, he left the next day, cheerfully. Take care. I smiled and watched him leave, then closed the front door. Once I saw the taxi leaving the condo, I immediately made a call to a local buyer. As soon as David was gone, I started selling everything in the house. The refrigerator, stove, bed and table, all except for my personal belongings, packed in a suitcase. In a matter of hours, the condo we had lived in for nearly a year was empty. David would be shocked when he returned. I couldn't stop the laughter. I thought I might feel sad seeing the empty room, but I felt none of that. Instead, I was filled with exhilaration at being freed from past pains. I moved to a hotel and planned to stay there for a few days. I wondered what David, with no money, would do. The next day, David, presumably back from his trip, called in a panic. Alyssa, it's terrible. The house is empty. Where are you now? I'm fine, so don't worry. Also, I'm putting the condo up for sale, so you better find somewhere else to live quickly. What are you talking about? As David yelled, I continued the conversation. Also, I'm divorcing you. I'll have a lawyer contact you about it. You should get a call by tomorrow. Make sure you find a job so you can at least pay for your phone. Are you kidding me? You think you can just do this and be forgiven? Well, it's surely less serious than you cheating on me, right? I sent him a few photos of his infidelity I had received from the detective agency. And David was at a loss for words. You'll be fine. You said you could do amazing things if you really tried, right? Good luck. After hanging up, I blocked his incessant calls. I also sent a certified letter detailing the affair to the husband of David's affair partner. More than wanting to disgrace the other woman, I felt a need to help her deceived husband. He quickly contacted me to thank me and informed me of his own divorce. We laughed, somewhat inappropriately, about both being rid of our burdens. It felt like everything was finally over. David struggled significantly to find a new place after losing the apartment. He thought he could easily afford it, but nowhere was cheap. And almost no place was affordable for an unemployed David. Abandoned by his affair partner and utterly helpless. He eventually found a small apartment with no shower and bath. In such dismal conditions, he started juggling multiple jobs to pay compensation to me and the husband of his affair partner. Occasionally, I pass by the convenience store where he works. The vitality he had while we were married is now gone. He is visibly worn out by daily labor. I simply walk past without speaking. There is no longer any reason for me to interact with him. For now, I think I'm good without marriage. My remote work earns at least $5,000 monthly, so I have no financial worries. Thanks to my life with David. I've also become adept at managing both work and household chores alone. When I find some leisure time, I might travel. Using this time for myself doesn't seem like a bad idea at all. As I flip through a travel magazine, I hum to myself, contemplating where to go next.